you just do something stupid and pick up a penalty, well, you're going to be going down pit lane.
100%. Great point, Connor. All right. When traveling down the pit lane, we're going to move on to pit lane procedures. When traveling down the pit lane, we ask that you remain in the right lane, driver's right, until you get to about 10 pit boxes of your own pit box. I think we've all been in races before where guys drive down the middle lane all the way down. They get in their box and they drive through a bunch of pit boxes on the way out. It looks like shit, and we're just not going to do that. It doesn't look good on the broadcast. It's not a good reflection of sim racing. So we just simply ask, until you get to 10 pit boxes or so of your own pit box, we're not going to be sitting there counting this part. But just hang out on the right side. Once you get to around 10 pit boxes, you can move over and get into that middle lane and start to prepare to enter your pit box. From there, we just ask that you don't drive through more than 3 pit boxes, going in or coming out. It's just 3 in, 3 out rule. Again, I think it makes it look clean. It's clear enough where I think we can do it safely on pit road. We've done it in the past. We do put the onus on the driver entering and exiting their own pit box to be aware of those around them. We do ask that if 2 entrants enter the pit lane side by side, if you're on the left side of basically the lanes that aren't the pit boxes necessarily, we ask that you slot in behind and get in the right lane. I think that we need to keep the left lane open as much as possible for people trying to come out of their pit box. I think it makes things safer. So again, if you enter side by side with somebody and you're on the left side, please move over into the right lane. Of note, I think we all know it's tighter even than it used to be. When you're exiting the pit lane, do not put your right side tires over the lines that basically continue the access road lane. So those are lines that whenever the grass goes away and you get in the short chute on the south end, do not put your right side tires over those lines. I mean, that's an iRacing penalty. If iRacing gives you a penalty there, I'm not going to take it off. Like, we all know how strictly that's regulated by iRacing. Jason puts the picture right now in the community chat. That's the first thing that pops up whenever we join a session. You have to exit out of that for it to go away. So I think we all know where that boundary is. If you go over that, that's iRacing's call. If they make a call, that's computer generated. I'm not going to get into measuring inches of whether or not somebody was or wasn't over the line. We're gonna let iRacing handle that. So in the chat, Alexander's is talking through a situation where, let's say you enter the pit lane, there's a ton of cars on the right-hand side, and that's where a driver on the left is supposed to merge into. Obviously, we get into the race. I'm not going to ask you to yield 8 positions. To Adam's point, he asks if somebody's barely hanging out on the right rear. We would like if the car behind would let the car on the left hand side in. I don't want anybody to lose 8 spots. I wouldn't expect that. So if nobody's letting you in, then right out in the left-hand lane. But if we see that there's a gap and there's a reasonable opportunity to get over to the right, then we would ask that you do that. Um, I also know that as the race situations play out, this is dynamic. Sometimes you're placed in a difficult spot as a driver. I won't ask you to move over to the right hand side just for the sake of being there and putting other cars in danger to cause a crash. Use your best judgment. I mean, obviously, if there's cars side by side coming into the pit lane, you guys are going to have to sort it out at some point, because if that car in front of you has to get over and their pit box is before yours, you guys are going to have to check up anyway. So I know that there's a little bit of sorting it out that's going to have to happen with the drivers anyway when you get to that position on pit lane. So we won't scrutinize that part as quickly or as tightly. I care more that you get through the situation cleanly. I'm more so talking about if you enter the pit lane by yourself, don't be on the left-hand side. You should be on the right-hand side. And that's true. Connor says the lead car, if you're the first car leading a trail of cars entering the pit lane, you need to be on the right-hand side. Obviously, you're under braking. Sometimes you slide over to the left. That's okay on the initial pit entry, but once you gather it up and you're at pit lane speed, make sure you're over on the right-hand side.
Right, and just to kind of piggyback off the lead car entering, if you are the lead car and you enter and you do not attack the pit line and somebody goes up your inside and is able to wholly clear you before you get to the pit entry lane and use the transition lane, and they have free space to the right, they are allowed to quote unquote overtake you. If the lead car enters in the fast lane and you go to their inside and you do not clear them, you need to let up and get behind them in the fast lane. You cannot use the left side. You can't use the left lane when you have not cleared the overlap of the entering car. That's how we would interpret the rules in race control if that was brought up.
Amen.
I believe there's a decent, Kyle, to your point, I believe there's a decent amount between where the pit limit line starts and then the first box for a competitor. So you still should be using the right hand lane, entering for all for all entries, either under caution or under green as well.
That's right. I mean, even if you start 33rd, there's at least 43 pit boxes. I would say, that's right on the line. Obviously, it being 10 till you get to the transition lane. So, 38 in this version of the track. I mean, again, that's where I care most about the safety in this instance. So, again, if you're riding out in the left-hand lane and you have an early pit box, but somebody's in front of you and they're pitting before you, and you are hanging out in the left lane, you cause an accident because you're there and they've got to get to their pit box, and either you don't let them or you run up their ass, then that's something we're going to take a look at. I would just suggest you're on the right-hand side until it's safe to get over to the left and there's no impedance from other cars around you. I don't expect. In Veterans 100 we shouldn't have. I don't think we should be making any pit stops. If we do, then there's been a miscalculation there. So shouldn't have to do any pit stops in Veterans 100. But pit stop competition, it's mainly just stay off of each other.
Yeah, if I can jump in real quick, Tanner. So going into the Veterans 100 today, if you were to go like full blast, clean air, no problem, you would be half a lap short. So keep that in mind today as you guys are dicing it out a little bit. As you guys experienced, the Indy Lights car is a little of a bit of a shitter on brand new tires, on cold tires. So expect going through 1 and 2 on your first lap just to be taking a little bit clean, taking a little bit easy. Tire wear is a thing, so if you guys want to implement that strategy, feel fine. That's your call. That's about it.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate Jeff's helping put together a set for Veterans 100 that offers some challenge there, without just being a white line fest. Hopefully you guys have fun and it's a cool race. That's what Veterans 100 and pit stop competition today are for. It's mainly just like Carb Day. It's an opportunity to have some fun and relax a little bit before we get into tomorrow. He did build a set and he put down a flyer lap, so we'll see if anybody can knock him off.
Hacks.
But no, appreciate the help, Jeff. Obviously it was really cool when the Indy Lights car, Indy Next now, came out on the sim, because we were going to run forward with a different open wheel car, and obviously this is a much better fit, so we're excited to do that for the first time today. Wrapping up pit lane. You get 11 sets of tires during the race. You get the set that you start on plus 10 more for pit stops. That's the standard that we've had it at since 2019. Unlimited tires for the Veterans 100. I mean, I hope we don't have like a ton of cautions, because that would kind of really stifle things in a 40-lap race. But yeah, there's no tire limit. Blocking, avoidable contact, all that stuff. Just want to touch on it briefly, because I think there's, as a race plays out, especially a 500-mile race, there's tons of moments, 100 moments across the track where guys could step on each other's toes, and sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's incidental. We want to stay out of the racing action as much as possible. We will take action if we feel things are egregious. We'll look at avoidable contact. Obviously, not every crash at the 500 gets an avoidable contact penalty. There's responsibility on each side, and we'll judge that and weigh that as such. When it comes to blocking, we try to stay with the rule that we'd rather you just make one move and no additional reactionary moves. Especially as we get down to the end of the race, it's just not a safe situation to be weaving, so we'd rather that not be the case. Again, we do this for the safety of the competitors. Matt asks, how would a blocking penalty be enforced in the race? So there's levels of severity where it's minimal, middle, and max. A middle penalty is a warning, or I'm sorry, minimal penalty is a warning. Mid is stop and go, and max is stop and hold. So if we get down to the end of the race, for example, then we could enforce a one-lap penalty as necessary. Again, these aren't sequential. It doesn't mean you have to hit one checkpoint and then have to get to the next. If we feel it's egregious enough, then we can jump forward in the penalty severity. So good question. Connor, anything to add on how that was handled last year for anybody that maybe was used to a certain way that you and Arjuta handled it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll kind of just jump in on what we're looking for as far as driving standards. I know that obviously the toe is a very powerful thing in this car, obviously from racing it for a lot of years. Um, so obviously, trying to break the draft, stuff like that is okay. Realistically, what we want to see is if the car behind, that is in your toe, they're within probably a car length. You need to, at that point, where you are on the racetrack is the line you need to pick, and you need to hold that line straight. Um, we understand that there is a point of, you are trying to break the draft, and I know we've seen all the moves, the serpentining down the front straight, and frankly, I think that's okay until you get to a point where you need to be predictable, for the car behind you to be able to try and make an overtake. As far as blocking, again, I have no problem going right from, bypassing the warning for it and making teams, take a penalty. Just a note that if you are given a stop and go in the sim, you do need to uncheck all of your pit stop settings, so fuel, tires, and the tear off. Otherwise, it will convert that to a stop plus 40, and then you'll be sitting down there extra long, even if you have to take just a tear off. Yeah, and we just don't want to see anything really in reaction to another car. If when cars are overtaking, they're entitled to space on the racetrack. It's pretty basic driving standard stuff. It's not anything too complicated. There's people watch this stuff all the time. They know the standards that we should be expecting.
Yep, I think that's well put.
Yeah. However, I will say, if you are going to block on the front straight, you need to keep all four wheels completely to the right side of the attenuator. Do not go down towards the pit entry to try to break the draft. If you do, we will straight up penalize you. This is the one warning that you will get for it, and we will absolutely let you know. But that is an unsafe action, and something of that caliber will have you going down the pit lane to serve a penalty. So please keep all parts of the car to the right side of the attenuator if you are attempting to break the draft on the front straight, please. Same rule goes for on the backstretch. Do not go down to the runoff area on the left-hand side on the exit of turn 2. Keep all four cars on the racetrack, please. Or all four tires on the racetrack, please.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right. Before we get to the conclusion here, I want to get everybody else out, but this has all been good stuff. As we talk about things like internet connection and performance standard there, we'll just judge that on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, we don't want blinking in the race, and we also don't want to bring somebody out off track for internet connection, knowing how hard everybody's worked to get to this point. So we'll have some leeway, but if you go a significant amount of laps where you're blinking out, it's affecting cars around you, it's affecting the safetiness of the race, and we feel like we can't continue safely with your car in the mix with other cars around, then we'll have to make a decision on that, and bring it to pit lane until you can figure it out. But again, we don't want to get to that point. We'll try to work with you there, and hope that it's just an isolated issue. But if it continues to be a problem, or you just are simply disappearing for a lap at a time, we obviously can't have that, and it'll be a difficult decision, but we'd have to pull you off the track at that time. Any additional questions right now on in-race action?
Kyle, to your point, the racetrack is defined, obviously, as the space. The white lines are considered in. So if you have your left sides on the white line, we are considering that inbound. If your left sides get to the left of the white line, on the straights, obviously, some guys go down there for in the corners, but really on the straights, it's defined by the grass. We'd like to keep all four tires on the black stuff, but realistically, for where there is no grass defining the boundary, then the white lines are the boundaries. We would like to see you at least have your left sides on some white paint if it's clear that you are left of the paint with your left side tires, that is out of bounds. Yeah, same thing. If drivers are forcing, cars that are trying to overtake out of bounds coming off of turn two, that will be something that will definitely be penalized. Obviously, if a car has overlap with you, you are expected to give that car racing room. If they have established, we'll call it significant overlap. We're not going to define exactly pixel perfect what that is, but in general, we'd like to see there be at least some significant overlap from front tire to rear tire to be considered, earning space. It's obviously very subjective, and every on-track interaction is unique. But just be clear. Just when racing, just be clear with your intentions, and just leave room for the other guy. And really, you shouldn't have any problems. That's generally the philosophy that we're taking from race control.
All right. If there's no additional questions on racing matters at this time, last thing we'll cover. Obviously, big discussion over the last 48 hours basically on the weather. It'd be great if iRacing's track temperature system and the way it reacted with air and time of day and all that was working as we've all gotten used to it working, but things are a little bit different right now. So we're trying to produce conditions that are challenging, but also give you an opportunity to pass and make moves on track if you have a good car. So we landed at static weather with an in-sim time of 2:30 p.m., 76 degrees Fahrenheit, partly cloudy skies, 30% humidity, 4-mile-an-hour east winds. That's what was published on Race Weather. We're sticking with that. The only thing that we changed was the time of day, and we're moving to static weather and not dynamic. To Robert's point, what he just put in the chat, there is still some temperature variety, and as you'll see probably, at least what I've seen in my testing, I tested this a few different times last night and got repeatable results. So I'm feeling better about it. I still don't feel great about all this, and I wish things had just worked as planned, because I think dynamic weather is obviously best, and I love when clouds come and go and everything that comes with that. Hopefully next time we get back to that. So in my testing, Adam, I saw exactly what you saw. When we load in the warm-up session, which will go for 30 minutes, it loads in 132 degrees Fahrenheit. And what I saw in the warm-up, it really doesn't change. It does start to change when we get into the race session. And that's where I saw it pretty much each time we loaded in to the race session, the warm-up was complete. The temperature was immediately dropping down to 121. And then from there, probably like what the rest of you guys have seen, it was like it dropped a degree Fahrenheit basically once every, a minute to a minute 15 seconds until it got into that 116, 117 range. And that's where I saw it hold pretty much, and then maybe go up a degree here or there, to Rob's point, once cars started running. So that's the goal. Put you guys in a box that's between that 115 to 120 range. I feel like that's suitable for racing at the Hoosier 500. Again, this isn't ideal for us, but I think it makes the best out of a difficult situation on short notice, gives everybody a level playing field, and even though I know it's been mentioned, static weather isn't necessarily static, it puts it at least in a manageable box for us. So that's where we're at with the weather. If anybody has any questions, you could ask, but I feel as good as I can about moving forward with that. The Veterans 100 cannot overlap with the pit stop competition because it'll be 40 laps. I think 40 laps or 45 minutes. So it's on a timer if it doesn't get to 40 laps. So keep that in mind. We will not run over on the Veterans 100. Yeah, at least the weather in the sim will be better than what we've got in Indianapolis right now. It's been awful all week. Right now, nobody's dropped out of the field, so we're still planning on the original 33 that qualified.
Yeah, no question is a dumb question in regards to the if you have anything for the Hoosier 500. Obviously, we want you guys to ask your questions now because ignorance is not going to absolve you from if you do something wrong and pick up a penalty. So, any questions, please forward them now.
Yeah, I got one. Can you repeat what you said about using the track exiting turn 2, like below the white line, before it turns to grass on the backstretch?
Yeah, for sure. Basically, we don't want anybody down there at racing speed. If you want to come off turn 2 and you want to go to the inside there to defend, we just ask that you keep, your left-hand tires on or to the right of the white line. We would consider that inbounds. Do not allow your left-hand side tires to go below the white line that defines the apron runoff area and the racetrack. So that's what we would like to see. Obviously, if somebody gets to your inside there and they've got overlap, they've earned that racing space. Do not force another driver down there where they'd have to go to the apron or the grass. That will be penalized. Is that clear, Casey, or do you need further explanation?
No, you got it. Thank you. I just you said something about like definitely don't do pit lane, and yeah, it's pretty much the same, pit lane and that exit of 2. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I believe there is a dotted white line that kind of defines the right-hand side of the attenuator. I believe at least it's been in previous versions. I honestly haven't looked at the new art version yet of Indianapolis, but I believe there is a dotted white line that extends from the end of the attenuator to help us define where that line is, and that if there is a line that comes off the end of that attenuator, that's what we'll use.
All right. Any more questions for the group? All right. Just want to say thanks again to everybody. We don't make any money for sure putting on this race, and we spend a whole hell of a lot of time trying to make it cool for you guys. Really appreciate you guys being a great group again this year. Been a lot of fun getting back to race weekend, getting through qualifying, getting you guys on the show and things like that. Really appreciate the support, and it's been great to be back and be a part of this. Thank you to Connor for offering some really good explanations during this meeting. Props to Arjuna for doing a great job in setting the standard and continuing the standard over the last couple runnings, and best of luck to him on tomorrow's broadcast of the race. Share the link to everybody that you know. A big number on the viewership only helps our event, and it helps us do more cool things for you guys, whether it's the prize pool or other things that support the event. Please, when you get a chance, share the race broadcast link. We go live at 11 a.m. on the PRI Facebook and YouTube channels. We'll have a little kind of, it will be less produced for sure. We'll have a pre-race starting at 9 a.m. on the Hoosier 500 YouTube. So thank you guys. Appreciate all of you. See you on track in 30 minutes for final practice. A quick note, the final practice, for anybody who's not participating in the Veterans 100, I set the final practice in sim to go for 2 hours. I don't even know if you can cut it down to 90 minutes. So it's set for 2 hours. If you want to continue, working out there, and you're not part of the Veterans 100 when 2 p.m. comes, which was the published time, feel free to continue practicing. If you are in the Veterans 100, we got a 15-minute warm-up, so you do have a little bit of leeway on getting out of that practice session and getting over to the Veterans 100, but it's a 15-minute warm-up, then we go straight to gridding, only for the people that participated in qualifying earlier in the week. So just wanted to give a heads up on that. If you see, the clock remaining, you're like, oh shit, that's more time than I thought. Just keep that in mind if you're going to be in the Veterans 100.
Tanner, just a quick question from you as race director. Do you want to do a practice start tomorrow during the warm-up for the Hoosier 500? Just so that way everybody can kind of see it once if you haven't seen it before or experienced it.
I'm fine with doing that. It kind of, in the past, I've looked at it as if everybody's in there early, then I'm cool to do it. If for whatever reason people aren't showing up in the session until 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before, I don't want to try to do a race start procedure and line people up with like gaps basically. So we'll play that by ear. If we have time, we have enough people in the room, and we feel like it's worthwhile given those conditions, then we can do that. Otherwise, I do feel good about being deliberate when we get into the race session and making sure everybody's taken care of, but we'll certainly look at that tomorrow morning.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for your time. Appreciate it. Good luck. Best of luck tomorrow. Again, let's try to keep everybody clean and safe early on. And then if you need to, you can take the gloves off later. But let's get to the first half of the race and go from there. Appreciate you all. Have a great rest of the morning. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you guys so much. Everything you do for us is very, very noticed and not underappreciated. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks.